Welcome to Bible Bites, everyone. I'm Pastor Dan. We are reading through the Bible one small bite at a time. And here we are beginning Matthew 18 in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. At this time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Well, we look in our world and who is the most important? This vying for power and control and authority, prestige, that's pretty common in this world, right? We see it in governments, we see it in political parties, we see it in countries, we see it in institutions. It's very much a part of human nature. I want to be important, I want to be out front. Now, of course, some are more ambitious than others, but still, I do believe it is very much human nature to want to be most important. And this whole world, to some degree, really is just a raging for, a vying for power, control, influence, authority. And as Jesus is preaching the kingdom of God, the disciples are thinking about this and they want to be the king's right hand man. Of course, there's always some benefit to that, right? And so they want to be that important person. But Jesus teaches them that the kingdom of God operates on a very different principle than the kingdom of the world. And it's a principle that our flesh resists. And so we have to constantly deny our flesh. And so here's Jesus' response to them to help them understand the kingdom of God and the culture of God's kingdom and how different it is than the world. He called a little child to him and placed the child among them. So let's look at the character of a child. A child is not trying to be most important. A child in the world takes a backseat role. They are not going to be the most important. They're not vying for control, power, authority, prestige. Now, they may grow up to do so. But at this point, there is a certain innocence, and they're okay with being a child, right? And in Jesus' day, households did not revolve around the activities and agendas of children. Now, in our day, households tend to revolve around that, right? They revolve around children, what they're involved in, their activities, and so forth. It was not like that in Jesus' day. So they took even more sort of backseat role. They were very much like servants. Now, this does not mean that they were not loved or they were not cherished, because I think that they were, at least like it is today. And in some families, children are very much loved and cherished, and others probably not so much. But the fact is, Jesus is using a child to illustrate not immaturity, not childishness, but really humility, a way of understanding and looking at the world, a position and a role that is just accepted. He said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." So they are not currently like a child. They do not view the world like a child. They have to change. Jesus is saying you must convert to be like a child and not vie for power, authority, prestige, importance, but rather be willing to give that up, to be a servant, to accept the role that they've been given. And of course, Jesus himself said that he came as a servant, and he came to serve, right? He took on human flesh, which is degrading to, at least it seems like degrading to someone who has an eternal and heavenly body. And Jesus would die on the cross for these humans who are rebellious and sinful. He's the king. He has all this power, but he didn't live in this world to point to himself saying, "Look how important I am. Look, I am the king of all." Now, he had to declare the truth that he was the king, but the way that he lived was not indicative of a person who's saying, "Wow, you need to come serve me and see how important I am," right? That wasn't how his attitude or his actions didn't show that. So Jesus states in verse 4, "Therefore whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. So there it is. That's the culture of God's kingdom, so different than the culture of this world. If we will deny ourselves, if we will be the servant, wow, that's actually what makes someone important in the kingdom of God. How can that be? We just can hardly fathom it. Verse 5, and whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. So Jesus is also saying, whoever welcomes someone that is like this child in my kingdom, who is like a child, that's like they're welcoming me. So there's this humility in life. There's this living as a servant. Whoever welcomes that person, because they are seen as unimportant in this world, but whoever welcomes them is like welcoming me. A child in my name, Jesus is talking about one who is a part of God's kingdom, right? One who's living out true kingdom culture and principle. Accept those is like accepting him. Well, I look forward to our next video, and until then, be blessed.